Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lessons in Leadership. I'm Mary Gregory. It is the 13th of May. It is our episode 27 today, and I'm really delighted to welcome Anne Taylor, leadership coach and author of the amazing book, Soft Skills, Hard Results. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Mary. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's a real pleasure to have you here as well. And I have to say, Anne and I know each other. We're both executive coaches. We've both worked for LHH and for Penna. And that's where our connection started. So, that was several years ago now. I'm really pleased that you're able to join me here today.
Thank you. Me too. And we both come on similar journeys with our books and such. That's great.
Because we both published last year, and they're not dissimilar in their content, but they take a very different approach to it as well. But I want to explore more of that in terms of what's in your book in a minute. What I want to just do, though, is just sum up what an incredible career you've had. And one of the reasons I asked you here today is that you are someone who has really navigated two large corporations. You've been a leader in both of those corporations of Procter & Gamble and Nestle. You've also had a global career. So in those organizations, your career has spanned a global remit. And also you moved over from Canada. So moving from Canada to the UK and settling here, all of that must have been a massive adventure. You must have learned lots of things along the way. But I also love that you're connected to business academia as well. So you have it well grounded, what you've presented in your book here and the work you do with clients, very well grounded in the academic rigor of things. And you still coach at London Business School.
Yes. It's been a great journey. Corporate work, now self-employed, and then being able to still have my fingers into those corporations as well as London Business School is great.
Yes, yeah, really good. So tell us a bit more then. Let's kick off. Just tell us a bit more about your journey, because you started out in the corporate world in Canada and then you moved over to the UK. So tell us a bit more about how you got to be a senior leader in Nestle, for example. Tell us about what that was like.
Yeah, I was at Nestle Canada at the time, many moons ago, and was, I say, grateful and lucky to be transferred to their head office in Switzerland. So I looked after half of their confectionery business globally, oversight for strategic planning, Kit Kat, Aero, and Smarties. And that's what got me into more of an international career, being based out of Switzerland and essentially working for the markets. I've worked in pretty much every continent except South America. As a visitor, not in situ, but as a visitor working with those markets on their business. And it was during my career there that I decided the part that I loved about the business the most was the people. And that's where I kind of then had my transition of, I call it sort of my midlife crisis, where I decided, okay, I think I want to do something differently, and stepped away, retrained as a coach. And then I still work with Nestle as a coach today. So I get to keep up with the people and the organization, but as a third party now.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nestle are a huge organization. I think they're possibly the biggest in the world. I can't remember, but anyway, they are a very big organization. And, organizations of that size have a reputation for being ruthless and for, being very results driven, which, your book is focused around being results driven. I'm curious about, what was it like working in such a big organization, and then before you get to the point where you discovered people were the things that were really important to you, but how did you navigate the challenges that I think are presented when you work for such a big organization that is very results focused?
I find with all my clients in corporations, especially, there is such a culture of results focused, of targets, of KPIs.
Yeah.
And from my natural nature, that's fine. That's how I was as a kid in school. I was results focused. What were my marks? What grades were I getting? What grades were I getting? Like, how was I progressing? So it was a natural lead-in for me. My father was also in business. So growing up, it was very much about hearing him hit his targets or meet his objectives and do well and get promotions. So very natural for me. I felt comfortable. That's the purpose of business in some ways is to meet those targets, because then
Yes.
they know they're delivering to the clients as well as the shareholders.
Yes. Yes.
So at the time I was in it, it was fine. It was normal. It
Yeah.
was part of who I am. I'm still that way now. I run my solopreneur as a small business.
Yes.
That was one of the easiest steps for me, stepping away from corporate into my own business, is because I had the business background. Other
Yeah.
independent people I know struggle with that because they don't have the business background.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And so what then, when did you start to notice that the people element was the side that you were really attracted to?
There were sprinkles all through my career. I remember when I worked at Procter and Gamble in Canada, people would come into my office, close my door, and say, "Can we talk?" And on reflection or in hindsight, I noticed some of those conversations were my biggest joy, but it didn't occur to me until much later. It was
Mm.
probably 2006, 2007. I started to feel there was something more, not just professionally, but personally as well.
Yeah.
I would sit in meetings and kind of go, there's got to be something different or something more. And it wasn't that I disliked the work. I liked the work. I was pretty good at it. So the what of business I enjoyed. What was missing for me was the how.
Mm.
I wanted to do it in a different way. And my sense was some other people wanted to do it in a different way as well. And some other people did do it in a different way. And that
Mm.
was foreign to me.
Mm.
And I was starting to notice those differences and
Mm.
having that feeling of me of, okay, change, I'm ready for change.
Great. And what were some of the differences you started to notice?
Um, I'd be in a meeting and I know I was like this, where it was about the critical path
Yeah.
or the timeline or the Gantt chart of something. And there wasn't really a lot of discussion about how people were feeling about those tasks. And I was equally to blame when I was running a meeting. It was like, okay, what were the next steps? Who's done what? You know, what's coming up? And I was sort of looking around, and there was some things going on in my life that had me sitting there thinking, if I'm going through this and there's this little thing in my mind, not preoccupying me over the work, but there, present,
Mm. Mm.
what's going on for other people sitting around this table that
Yes.
that I'm not even aware of, that might also be in their mind and might be a block or might
Yes.
just be something that if released or shared would make everything a bit better.
Yeah. So you were starting to wake up, you're starting to become alert because of what was going on in your own mind to the whole human contribution. Yeah, the human experience and the human contribution to achieving the task, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, I love your word of waking up, because sometimes I feel I was asleep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you just do this. There's a list, there's tasks, you just go through it. And there
Yeah.
was that waking up or becoming conscious. That sounds a bit too lofty and enlightenment, but it was a bit more, wow, there's more than just this list of things to do in front of me or a target I'm chasing.
Yes, yes. So having developed that interest around people and then also taking your career in a different direction of becoming a coach where you help people be the best they can be as leaders, you then wrote this amazing book, which I want to just flag here, has been shortlisted for the Business Book Awards. So it's a really great read. I love how it's all set out. It's really set out so clearly and pragmatically is how I would describe it. So it's a really good read for anyone who wants to really develop their people skills. What opened you up to writing your book and calling it Soft Skills, Hard Results? Because absolutely, it's something I've been harping on about for years. So when I actually saw the title, I thought, that is brilliant. It's perfect.
Oh, thank you. Yes, the title came through some work with a group of writers and my publisher. And it was why I can use that. I can use that. It was epiphany. So I love the title as well. In terms of how it came about, it was a little bit of what's been my journey. And more importantly, it was what's the journey of my many clients. I was starting to see themes and patterns among the people I work with. hearing things from leaders and corporations, the research and the reading that I do, it all was really coming down to the people skills. When you advance in an organization, it's not your hard skills or technical skills that hold you back. It's your ability to motivate, influence, and dare I say, inspire other people to do the work for you.
Yeah.
And that became the thing that differentiated people that were successful and fulfilled from those that might be struggling a bit. And it was really to tell a little bit of their story, my story, and help others. As you say, it's formatted in a certain way for analytical, logical, pragmatic people who are task driven. So it's set up easily to dip in, dip out, grab resources for what you need in the moment and go out and apply.
Yes, yes. It's perfect for those people that really want to have it set out in a logical way. I mean, I was thinking about some of the engineers I've worked with in my past, and I can remember one of them actually said to me, "The thing is, Mary, soft skills are really the hard skills." And that really resonated, because it absolutely is, because it's harder for us to focus on our softer skills and the people skills than it is necessary to draw on the things that we're highly trained in and that we know lots about. So it's a perfect title.
I love his quote.
Yeah, I love it as well. I think I've even mentioned it in my book, because it was just like one of those things of, that is it, really. It is the hard thing. I've also noticed that there's an opening up, and I talked about this with Elva Ainsworth a few weeks back, who runs Talent Innovations. There seems to be an opening up to embracing the softer skills much more than there used to be. Is that something you've noticed?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think in part the last year has done it as well. We've been invited into each other's homes.
Yeah.
Through a lot of the virtual work that's going on, the video conferencing that's going on, you're seeing more than just the doer of the tasks that you would see around a conference room table. You're now seeing the human, the pet that comes in, the kids that knock on the door, the decor in the background. So I think the last year has actually helped people realize, wow, the person doing the work is more than just the doer. They're also an individual.
They're a human being. They're a human being, aren't they? And that the whole dialogue and conversation around mental health as well, and how important that is, and that, you know, how people are treated is all about the soft skills, and will make the difference as to whether they're fully engaged or not.
Yeah.
So in terms of the message you wanted to leave people with, what was the key message you wanted to leave people with at the end of your book? Having read your book, what would you like them to go away with?
People are very successful. There's a lot of successful people in business and organizations, and often that success is predominantly head smart. It's intelligence, it's experience, it's education, it's knowledge. And I want them to know that for greater success going forward, as well as more fulfillment for yourself and others, it would be helpful to also be heart smart. Having more of the empathy, the emotional intelligence around how you interact with others.
Yes, that is fantastic. I love that. And again, engaging, balancing, you still need that head stuff, but you absolutely need to balance it up with getting in touch with your heart center as well, and making sure there's a bit of both. It's integrated in terms of how you're leading with others. Very difficult to engage others if you're not heart connected, I
Definitely,
think.
yes. Yeah.
So, fantastic message. And you mentioned emotional intelligence. I know that one of the things you're developing, or you've developed recently, is a program to do with emotional intelligence. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, in addition to the one-on-one leadership and executive coaching I do for myself as well as for London Business School, I've developed a business partnership with a colleague, and we are designing and delivering emotional intelligence leadership programs for various levels in the organization. And we're having a great time working with groups, small and medium-sized groups, on taking them through an emotional intelligence journey.
So when you say a journey, what sort of things might you invite people to be looking at?
Well, for emotional intelligence is 4 quadrants, essentially. It's, you know this, the self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management. And so we take people through, how to have difficult conversations,
Yeah.
I hear a lot from clients of the awkwardness of giving feedback or having a difficult conversation. And there are really some easy ways to do
Yeah.
those conversations well and make them constructive conversations.
Yeah.
We go through values. What are your individual values and how do those link to the company values so that you do
Yes.
have that heart alignment?
Yes.
We do skill things, how to give feedback, positive as well as constructive. We can deliver coaching, how to be an everyday type of coach. We also talk a lot about listening and powerful questions. So
Yes. Yes.
important. Right now, some of the main things that people are struggling with are empathy. So we do a lot of work around empathy. And curiosity is one that I'm fascinated by. Curiosity for me is starting to appear to be the gateway to empathy as well as agility.
Yeah.
It's so necessary
Yeah.
right now in business.
And it's a great, you cannot be curious without suspending judgment. So I know curiosity is a huge one for me, and has been for quite some time, because it really is about, if something is irking you, rather than rushing into judging and getting into potential conflict, get curious about your reaction first of all, but also about why the person is doing what they're doing or saying what they're saying.
Yeah.
And you'll have a whole different type of conversation.
Yeah.
Really fantastic stuff, Anne. And I mean, what you're reminding me of is I was listening to a podcast from Brené Brown recently, one of my favorites.
Yes.
And she's just amazing. And the whole notion of having those tricky conversations, what you're speaking about in terms of helping leaders have those tricky conversations, manage them effectively. She's noticing in the work she does that that's the biggest area that leaders in organizations avoid, that they just aren't good at it. So to be able to be offering something that really helps with that is really commendable. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I know you're a huge advocate for that as well.
I am indeed. So let's move on then a bit more about you as a leader, as not just a thought leader, but also you've been a leader in the corporate world as well. And you're a leader in your life and your business now. I run these conversations because I'm always curious about what people have learned about leadership and about themselves as a leader over the years. So this is kind of the point where I'm going to delve a bit deeper and ask you to just share a moment that shaped who you are as a leader and actually shows up in how you lead now. So one of those aha moments.
The biggest aha moment, and most people who know me have heard this one, is the unexpected death of both of my parents 22 weeks apart.
Wow.
That was the thing that has shaped me professionally and obviously personally. In changing my career, in becoming more heart smart, in being more engaged in the human interaction of life and work.
That sounds so shocking to have had to experience that.
It was very unexpected. I was based in Switzerland at the time. They were still in Canada. And it was one of those, just go back, to help Dad after an operation. And it just became a very unexpected journey.
Yeah. And your father passed away before your mum?
Yes. Yeah. My father passed.
So you went back to help with your dad, and then were you still over there when your mum?
No. So helped with Dad, was getting Mum settled. I went back to Switzerland, back to work, and then came back for a visit with Mum because of some issues, and then back back and forth.
Oh, yes.
So then ended up staying with her through her palliative visit and passing. Yeah. So I've never given birth. I don't have children. And I know that the experience of being with someone, especially that you love, when they pass away, when they die, is incredible. For me, it was, at least, of what life is about.
Yes. And I don't know how much you want to say. So just say as much or as little as you want. How did you cope with all the grief? Because this grief for your father would have still been really, really raw. And then you lost your mother. So how did you manage with double whammy of grief?
To be honest, I didn't deal with it. That was the head smart part of me saying, you know what, just get through this. And interesting, I remember in the last week of my father's life in the hospital, one of the nurses actually took me aside and said, be his daughter, not his carer, not his
Right.
nurse. And I was like, I want to be, but I don't know what that means. And so it was very easy for me to stay in my head and plan, what can I do to help? Administer medications, track vital signs. When mom became sick, it was the same thing of, okay, what type of care can be lined up? What type of resources are available? Very easy for me to go into the doing mode.
Yeah.
Then I went back to Switzerland after both of their deaths. It was easy to throw myself back into work because of those absences. And kind of, I sort of thought, they're across the ocean. I can kind of forget that a little bit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until about a year later where I was, I think, strong enough to look at that grief and to be with it. And I'm a huge advocate of a therapy to go through this stuff. So I did have a grief therapist that helped me through it. And it was that processing then that opened me up to more of the possibility in human connection and emotional connection.
Yes.
For me personally, as well as professionally.
Yes. And so going through that grief, and I think what you've just described there resonates probably with so many people who are busy with their careers. Their careers are important to them. They've got to get on. And what we end up doing is burying our feelings. It's a way of, I don't need to deal with that right now. This is much more meaningful and purposeful for me at this moment. And it's a denial of our feelings. Mm-hmm. So having dealt with it though, Anne, what's been the result for you? I mean, obviously you've transferred your career, but tell us a bit more about how that happened as a result of getting in touch with those feelings.
Yeah, it made me aware that there's feelings present all the time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite aware of that because I'd be so much in my head and so much in the doing that they're available all the time. They're there, and that they are data points.
Yeah.
If I go to my logical hat, emotions are just data points. They're information. Oh, I'm not feeling right. What's that about? What needs to shift for me to feel better? Or I'm feeling great. What's that about? How do I get more of that? Or how do I at least appreciate that strong feeling?
Yes.
And so this is sort of my midlife crisis. I took a break from work. I went and took a weekend coaching session just out of interest and loved it, found it captivating, signed up, did more training. I struggled in that process of, I'm not kind of the touchy-feely people that I'm seeing around me. On a scale, there's some that are extremely what I call touchy-feely, and then there's me, pretty hard. And there was a lot in between. And I was like, do I actually fit here then? Is this right for me? And it was that process of, how do I do this in a way that works for me? So then the light bulb of authenticity started coming up for me of, I actually don't need to change who I am. I'm fine how I am, do it my way, just as other people who were different than me were fine doing it their way. Yes. So that was brought in emotions, it brought in curiosity, it brought in authenticity, it brought in vulnerability, courage. And then I went back to work and kind of said, I want to move out of line management and strategy management into the people side. And that's what I chose to do.
Fantastic. And I love that it's almost like you felt different and not as included in a way in the coach training because you weren't this touchy-feely person, but you found your way, you found your path through that to be the authentic coach you are today, because you do have quite a distinctive style about you. Your book is quite distinctive. It really is great. And you're a wonderful role model for having stuck with who you are and still pursued what you were passionate about and what you wanted to do.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. It's the same thing I talk to my clients about. I've got a marketing background, a marketing degree. I did strategic management as my last job at Nestle. It's companies struggle to find their unique selling proposition, their USP, what differentiates them, brand differentiating, stand for something. And it's the same for us as leaders and us as individuals.
Yes.
Embrace who you are and almost magnify it, relish in it, and be that.
Yes. You are a shining example of that. Thank you, Anne.
Thanks.
So Believe it or not, we are almost at the end of our time today. It always goes so quickly. What are the final thoughts? I mean, we've been through this, cataclysmic period of change and uncertainty with the pandemic and everything. And in the UK, certainly, we're starting to return a little bit back to normal, but we're still in all these uncertain times. So what are your sort of parting words of wisdom you'd like to share with people who might be watching now or watching later?
Oh, wow. I would say pause and take a breath and be intentional about what you're doing, how you are being as you go about what you are doing.
Yes. Yes.
And that can be interacting with others. It can be how you interact with yourself.
Yes.
It could be how you're approaching your work, but take a breath, pause.
Yeah.
And connect with who you want to be, what you want to achieve, and go forth intentionally.
Yeah, I love that. And that connects you with your consciousness so that you're in a position of choice rather than a position of reacting, which comes back to some superb soft skills there, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It's a marriage of heart smart and head smart.
Yeah, brilliant, lovely. Heart smart, head smart, heart smart. All very, very important. So thank you so much, Anne. It's been a real pleasure having you here today. I'd also like to thank everybody for watching us today and in the future, as you may be watching this after the event. Next week, I'm very pleased to welcome Amanda Johnson, who also has another phenomenal story to tell around her leadership journey. Amanda isn't just a virtual assistant, she runs a whole bureau of virtual assistants. So she's a very dynamic lady who has set herself up on the back of a career in the Navy as well. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing Amanda's story as well. So thank you again, Anne, and see everybody next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.